Hey all, it's Fox. I want to talk about disclosure and the effect it will potentially have on the masses. For decades, we've played with the notion that full, uncensored disclosure would lead to massive civil disruption, and as such, speculate that the powers that be have opted for a slow drip disclosure process to acclimate the population to this new understanding. Will disclosure ripple through humanity, leaving chaos in its wake? Before we attempt to answer that question, I want to invite you to subscribe. We muse about all the stranger things this world has to offer, from killer robots to the UFO phenomena to cutting-edge tech. I believe the truth is stranger than fiction, so I seek out the strange, because odds are, that's where the truth is. But moving on. I like to look to the past to farm hints about what to expect in the future. Is there anything from humanity's past that we could possibly compare to UFO disclosure? What shocks has humanity already endured that could give us some insight into how people and our institutions may react? Let's talk about Pearl Harbor. This surprise attack on the US by Japan drew the US into the world's bloodiest global conflict. It was a major shock, not only to the US, but to the world. What was the fallout? Did mass hysteria grip the world? No. In short, the US mobilized like never before and committed itself to rapid technological progress. Not because they wanted to, but because they felt they had to survive. This shock led to the development of numerous technological advances, including, but by far not limited to, the jet engine, synthetic rubber and oil, pressurized cabins, radar, and of course, the atomic bomb. Can we expect a similar reaction to the shock of disclosure? I'd imagine so. After all, past performance is indicative of future performance, and governments are now quietly, and not so quietly, labeling the phenomena a threat, and threats induce fear. I suspect this fear will inspire massive, rapid technological progress in numerous areas. You think the past 20 years was a blur of technological progress? Just wait. For instance, could anti-gravity tech become part of our arsenal as a consequence of disclosure? Remember, World War II introduced a new form of propulsion, the jet engine. It's widely believed that disclosure will definitively answer the question of whether anti-gravity tech is even possible. Further to this, I think it's inevitable that once the idea gets into our heads that something is possible, that we easily achieve it, even if this thing was traditionally thought of as impossible to achieve in the past. Stay with me. Consider the 4-minute mile. Up until 1954, when Sir Roger Bannister was the first person to run a mile in under 4 minutes, it was thought that such a feat was impossible. He broke this record at the Helsinki Olympics with a time of 3 minutes and 59.4 seconds. The odd thing is, what was once impossible became achievable. His record was beat just 46 days later and was followed up by numerous other athletes crushing that once impossible barrier. The world record is now 3 minutes and 43.13 seconds, an achievement set in 1999. Once the idea that anti-gravity devices are possible gets ingrained into our consciousness, we will crack that nut, if we haven't already. Looking at you, skunkworks. Now, it's regularly speculated that disclosure would send damaging shockwaves through the religious community. I'm not convinced of that. I haven't spoken about it explicitly on the channel, but I assume if you listen to my stuff, you are aware that the phenomena is referenced numerous times in religious documents, spanning practically every religious movement and practice. Go look and you will find. The phenomena has had a home in religious texts for centuries, and as such, I feel the religious are better equipped to shoulder this new paradigm. I believe it's human nature to seek the spiritual. In fact, I believe exploring the spiritual is fundamental to the human experience. Religion, spirituality, is fundamentally a belief in the paranormal. I think the spiritual, which I count myself as one of, may be the best equipped to weather this shock. Our brains are already fairly stretchy, and our worldview allows for high strangeness. I suspect the spiritual will be a source of strength, not risk, in a world grappling with its identity and place in the universe. The final concept, the wild card, that I want to introduce to the mix is risk management. If I was in a place of power, I would want to know every possible scenario that could unfold in order to shore up defenses and protect my peeps. But anticipating every possible scenario is simply impossible. Donald Rumsfeld is credited with introducing an interesting idea into the populace. He's quoted as stating, "Reports that say something hasn't happened are always interesting to me, because as we know, there are known knowns, there are things we know, We also know there are known unknowns. That is to say, we know there are some things we do not know. But there are also unknown unknowns, the ones we don't know. And if one looks throughout the history of our country and other free countries, it is the latter category that tends to be the difficult ones. How we react to the unknown unknowns is impossible to know, but we've shouldered them in the past. They are what keeps our genuine leaders up at night. We know that major events regularly spawn unintended consequences, both good and not so good. But again, if past performance is indicative of future performance, then our species will adapt, one way or another. That's what we've done for hundreds of thousands of years. So what's the big picture? I believe disclosure will be the most disruptive event in human history, and disruptive events are inherently messy. I suspect disclosure will pit us against one another before eventually uniting most of us. It will birth technologies that will forever impact humanity's trajectory, and will bring out the spiritual in us, much to our benefit. It's only speculation, but I don't believe that mass civil unrest will be a consequence of disclosure. The path will not be all roses, and I suspect there will be a subset of the population that will be unable to cope. I'd like to think that we as a community have the tools and empathy needed to support our fellow humans in a time of existential crisis. We exist in multiple, overlapping, complex ages. The Anthropocene age, the age of hyperobjects, the age of the technological singularity, and the age of disclosure. It's why it's so messy out there. Things are moving fast. I suspect disclosure will amplify all aspects of humanity. It will be further expressed in our art, our politics, the way we organize our communities, the way we see ourselves and each other. It will lift the veil on the fraudsters among us, and perhaps reveal dark truths harbored for decades by the people charged with protecting and serving us. I think we will be in the position where forgiveness will be the only productive path forward, and that's the path I intend to take if I'm ever provided the choice. Thank you for listening. If you like my work, please hit that like button and consider subscribing. And remember, this ride is not without risk. Be careful out there, and take care.